The problem is that this pushing tendency isn't obvious in a drive, which can look technically sound. But as soon as you try to loop, the flaw is exposed. Today, we're focusing on the forehand topspin loop. This is a fundamental skill you absolutely have to master. It's highly effective for changing the rhythm with your footwork and for maintaining stability when you're under pressure. Its main advantages are consistency and a high success rate. First, let's break down the fundamental difference between a loop and a drive. Against a topspin ball, most players default to driving it. Driving is fine from a static position. But once you introduce footwork, the shot becomes unstable and the ball tends to float. This is because a pure drive lacks spin for stability, and you'll struggle under pressure or against opponents using pips-out rubbers. Now, let's analyze the difference in rhythm between looping and driving. Let me demonstrate. This is a drive, and this is a loop. A drive has a quicker tempo, while a loop is slightly slower. The slower tempo of a loop allows you to execute the full stroke mechanics correctly. Many amateur players can't loop because they stand too close to the table, which gets them jammed when they try to rotate their waist. When you're that close, you're essentially just hitting the ball with your arm. The key to looping is creating about 1 meter of distance from the table. This space gives you the time to execute a proper stroke. A drive relies on using the opponent's pace, but when looping from mid-distance, you must shift your mindset to proactively generating your own power through a complete motion. To execute a complete stroke, you need both the space created by your distance from the table and the time that distance provides. So, when practicing your loop, always make sure to stand a bit further back. The recovery rhythm for a forehand drive is a quick, continuous motion. However, the loop has a larger swing, requiring a distinct moment of gripping or snapping the racket at the contact point. If you try to add that pause to a close-to-the-table drive, you'll be too slow and get jammed by the ball. A good loop is defined by a clear snap at contact, creating a rhythm of snap, 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 even in continuous rallies. This rhythm involves a sharp grip at contact, followed by a relaxed recovery. A drive doesn't have this. It's a constant tempo because you're too close to the table to relax and re-engage, and loosening your grip will cause you to get jammed. Therefore, when looping, use your distance from the table to relax your arm during the backswing. Accelerate into the ball at contact, then relax again. You must find this feeling. This is also the core feeling for looping backspin, not a stroke with constant tension or constant relaxation. You need to master this relax, tense rhythm. In a match, relaxing on the backswing is what allows for an explosive and compact forward swing. The reason you miss loops under pressure is arm stiffness, which prevents you from properly gripping the ball to create spin. The biggest difference between looping and driving is the space for your arm. A drive space is in front of your body, while a loop space is behind you, distinguishing a near-table shot from a mid-distance one. Secondly, the overall tempo of the loop must be slower, allowing you to relax your arm as you follow the ball into your backswing. You can't relax during a drive, because you're close to the table. Any attempt to relax and then retense will make you late and the ball will fly off. This is why players accustomed to driving struggle to find the relaxed feeling needed for a loop, which is also essential for lifting backspin. Because driving is a close-range, reactive shot using the ball's pace, you don't have time to relax without losing control. However, when practicing the loop with sufficient space and a longer ball trajectory, you must develop a relaxed arm. A pro's powerful loop comes from a very loose arm that accelerates explosively at contact. A skill built by practicing this relax on backswing, accelerate on contact principle. Many errors in matches are caused by arm stiffness because players haven't mastered the relationship between relaxation and explosive acceleration in a loop stroke. Watch closely, my backswing is a relaxed reaction to the incoming ball, not a pretensed, rigid preparation. You have enough time to relax your arm as the opponent's ball approaches. Many players lose their rhythm because after the first loop, they use a tense arm for the next backswing. You can't prepare for every topspin ball with a perfect, preset stance like you might for a backspin ball. The reason we practice looping the ball on its way down is to build a solid foundation for your stroke. Although the timing in a match is faster, this drill helps you develop the feel for the contact point to keep your shot stable under pressure. Use the slower tempo practice to find the feeling of relaxing and then accelerating. People tell you to relax, but you get tense because when driving close to the table, the pace is too fast. You have to be tense just to keep up. If you relax, you'll miss. There's no time or opportunity to be loose. So, your first task when practicing the loop is to establish the correct spatial relationship with the ball. Your second, and most important task, is to feel the entire arm relax as it follows the ball into the backswing, and then accelerate sharply through contact. Don't get it backward by having a tense backswing and a soft contact. The second problem, being used to driving, your contact point is to the front right of your body. When you try to loop, you incorrectly use the same early contact point. A proper loop requires a backswing behind the body to load power, with the contact point out in front. If your backswing ends at the side of your body, your only option is to push the ball forward, generating no power. To create space for power generation, you must not contact the ball too early. The key to looping is getting your hand behind your body, past your hip and leg, and letting the ball come to you. Your contact point must be later than a drive. If you apply the contact point of a drive to your loop, you'll be forced to make contact early in front of your body, leading to rushing the shot. For a loop, draw the ball in closer to your body and make contact there. Let the ball come back further, making contact in front of your right hip. A drive's contact point is early and to the side. If you use that timing for a loop, you'll be completely jammed. So, for a loop, you need to let the ball travel further back. This is about rhythm, you have to wait for it. With a drive, you start the swing from the side and hit it. You can't use that small backswing for a loop, it just becomes a push with no threat. For a loop, open up your backswing and wait for the ball to come to you. Once you master this, you won't make the mistake of using a driver's contact point on backspin balls. This small adjustment is the key to synchronizing your power with the ball. If you've driven for too long, your sense of space, rhythm, and positioning are all calibrated for driving. This will prevent you from learning the topspin loop and make it extremely difficult to loop backspin effectively. You might be able to lift the ball over the net, but it will never become a weapon. A single, high-quality loop can be a career-defining shot. If you play with inverted rubber but your loop has no threat, you're just pushing the ball back, which your opponent won't fear at all. A drive's contact point is at your side, but a loop's backswing is behind you, so your contact point must naturally be further back. This is all about the backswing. Don't be afraid to take a full backswing, especially when practicing a proactive attack against a predictable ball. You must load your power. After a full backswing, make contact beside your body and then complete your follow-through. If your swing starts from behind your body and your contact point is out in front, you'll lose all your power. The common mistake is reaching for the ball with an incomplete backswing, which results in a pushing motion. You're not letting the ball come to you to time the impact. Instead, you're using a short backswing and pushing the ball. With a full, loaded backswing, you can truly connect with the ball's power. Be brave, let the ball travel a little further and use a bigger backswing. This is a loop, not an oversized drive. If you don't fix this, you'll always use the wrong contact point for backspin balls, even though the correct contact point is where you can generate the most power. Third question, for a topspin loop, should the backswing go backward or downward? If you only pull your arm straight back, your shoulder and elbow will tense up. Even for a topspin ball, dropping the racket head on the backswing is much better. The backswing motion is similar for both backspin and topspin. For topspin, you just don't need to bend your knees as much. The reason you drop the racket on the backswing is to achieve relaxation. A horizontal backswing creates tension, a downward drop keeps the arm loose. This downward motion isn't to hit the ball at a low point. It's purely to keep the entire arm relaxed. A player with a stiff arm always pulls straight back and lacks the awareness to drop the arm. You need to fix this habit. Even your forearm, holding it up is tense, letting it hang is relaxed. During the loop, you relax and drop the arm on the backswing. As you swing forward and upward, you will naturally make contact at your side. The swing path is still from back to front, so don't worry about hitting it too low. So, dropping the racket on a topspin loop is for relaxation. It prevents tension so you don't end up with a stiff, held backswing that causes the ball to float. This downward drop facilitates relaxation and the snap timing needed to execute a proper loop. The closer you are to the table, the higher your backswing will be. The further away, the more you can drop your arm. Regardless of height, your body should always have a tilt, with your left shoulder higher than your right. This tilt is what engages your body's power. If your shoulders are parallel to the ground, you will always be hitting with just your arm. When you drop your right shoulder, you're forced to use your body rotation and core to execute the shot. Dropping the shoulder is critical because it initiates the body rotation. A straight back backswing leads to stiffness and eventually an arm-only stroke, as the body gets left behind. I spent half a year on my topspin loop, and then learned to loop backspin in less than a month because the rhythm and spatial awareness were already established. My coach was wise not to rush into teaching backspin loops. Once you have a strong topspin foundation, looping backspin is just a matter of adjusting your center of gravity. Look at this stroke, it has a slight pushing motion. This is a very common issue among amateur players. The problem is that this pushing tendency isn't obvious in a drive, which can look technically sound. But as soon as you try to loop, the flaw is exposed. When you try to loop, the stroke becomes bigger. If you use a pushing motion, you'll not only miss often but also fail to generate any real quality. A pushing stroke has neither speed nor spin. It's the difference between shoving someone and slapping them. A linear push cannot create the arcing motion needed to wrap around the ball and generate heavy topspin. Furthermore, you can't generate power. The force from a max effort push is less than what another player can generate with a relaxed, technically sound stroke. This push isn't just forward, it can be upward or sideways. The core issue is that a drive starts from the side and goes straight to the ball. When you loop, you must open up the backswing. The pushing error happens when your elbow and upper arm lead the motion, passively dragging your hand forward. The correct motion is led by the racket head, which draws an arc from behind you. The rest of the arm follows this path, rather than being shoved forward by the upper arm. The racket head's path should move from back to the side, and then forward, creating an outside-in arc. Watch me loop this backspin ball without using my body. The reason it's so powerful is that my racket head is drawing that correct outside-in arc. Even with lazy body mechanics, if you get this hand and arm motion right, you can at least produce a decent attack, instead of hitting the ball into the net with great effort. I strongly recommend that amateur players learn to loop properly. If you play with inverted rubber, you can't avoid it. It's the only way your offense will ever be effective.